diehard lover of the greatest sitcom of all time, I Love Lucy, I want to share with you some of the things I read from Love, Lucy, a book by Lucille Ball that came out in 1996. This book is as old as I am, and I found it at a secondhand bookstore. And what's great is that I found this book in perfect condition. Something that I really love and learned and admire about Lucille Ball is the way that she created opportunities for herself. And I love that she wasn't faced that things didn't exactly come out as she had planned them in her head. What I mean by that is that she started off as a model and she wanted to be an actress. What she didn't know is that she had great comedic timing, and they would put her as the funny girl or very rarely as the main character, if ever. But she wasn't faced by that. She saw that as an opportunity. She took it, and what I loved was that she didn't let it hurt her self-esteem. She was a very beautiful girl, a very beautiful woman, and I'm really glad that she didn't allow that to deter her from going for her dreams. She's like, okay, I'm funny. All right, she squeezed those lemons. I'm gonna jump a little bit here and there with the timeline, so I'm just gonna be all over the place. One thing that I was very surprised, we all know Desi and Lucille is one of the most, if not the most iconic couple in not only Hollywood, classic Hollywood, but in the world of sitcom, definitely. It's also well known that Desi Arnaz was a ladies' man, that he had problems with alcohol. He loved to gamble. All of these things I learned a few years ago watching this movie, Lucy, from 2003. I knew all those things, but something that came as a surprise for me was realizing that I knew that she had divorced Desi and she married Gary Morton, but I didn't know that their marriage lasted 28 years. And with Desi Arnaz, she lasted 20. I was about to say only, but I know 20 is a lot of time. But that's crazy to me. I always thought that when she married Gary Morton, it was like the last few years of her life. But no, 28, nearly 30 years with Gary Morton. It's very hard to pin that to my head when I think everyone associates Lucy with Desi. We love them as a couple. But here's the thing. We see them as a couple who had immense chemistry. They just look like they go together. But something also very surprising to me reading this book is a part where Lucy says, we didn't really like each other. They were attracted to one another, but they didn't like each other, much less approve of one another. For the same fact that, as I had seen in other interviews of Lucy, she would describe Desi as, even though she loved him, as a loser. But a loser in the sense that he just had to lose. He had a family at home, he had to go cheat. He had money, he had to go gamble it. I guess it was just very shocking for me to hear the words, we didn't like each other. If you see them on I Love Lucy, it's just very hard. Just beautiful chemistry that they have on camera. I don't think I would have ever come to the conclusion in words, we don't like each other. Another thing that I learned from reading this book is that they made history together as a couple when they decided to buy RKO Studios. Not the company, but the studios. And then when they did that, they turned it into Desilu Productions, which now in modern times is part of Paramount Pictures. This was a big deal because RKO was one of the big 5 production studios, along with MGM, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, and Warner Brothers. The historical part in this is that by doing so, Desilu Productions became the first independent studio run by actors. Which obviously means that she not only participated in making very executive decisions, important decisions that were unheard of at that time for a woman, but she was also acting at the same time. And then what's even bigger is that after she divorced Desi Arnaz, she bought his share in Desilu Productions and she became the sole president of the company. Under her leadership, we saw series such as Star Trek and Mission Impossible. Their show, I Love Lucy, is also credited for being the first sitcom ever to implement the 3-way camera system. They did not invent the 3-way camera system, but they were the first to use it on primetime sitcom. And by doing so, they helped revolutionize the way that sitcoms exist to this day and age, and it also helped to perfect it. And what's more is that they were doing so with the live audience. These are some of the things that I can tell you without spoiling the book for you. I definitely loved finding this book. I've been on a hunt to find it for a few years now. So for me to see it in person and not actually have to go online, for me to actually see it physically, you cannot imagine how I was screaming like a little girl, like, oh my god, I found that! I love seeing Lucy as a woman, because when we see her in the show, we see her in her submissive role as the wife at that time. We see her acting silly or with a little baby voice like this, you know. But it's very nice to see the ambitious side of Lucy, to see Lucy as the go-getter. Like, the whole thing we see is a narrative on the show, you know, a woman who just follows her husband, yes sir, in a goofy kind of way. But here we get a woman where we see she was oh so much more powerful than we ever get to see on the screen. And even on the screen, we get to see her wit, her smarts, in a goofy kind of way. But I really, really loved to have the chance to see and hear about Lucy in a more intimate way. This book reveals her wits, her intelligence, and her boldness.